Good morning, Sonder fam. Happy Sunday. I think that that song is so fun to open with our theme this month because that is what it's all about with curiosity is digging a little deeper. My name is Bailey Grady and I will be your facilitator this morning. Apologies in advance if I'm a little sniffy. My allergies are definitely getting the better of me today and they might just be winning just a little bit, but that is a-okay. I'm in Hendersonville, Tennessee, just north of Nashville. And I already see some very familiar names in the chat. So thank you for being here with us. So good to see you as always. Well, you know, see you in the chat. For those of you who may be new, or maybe this is your first or second setup, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. And as I somewhat mentioned just now, I will be the only one on camera today, so you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, am I muted? Am I not? Is my camera on or off? Like, is my hair crazy? You can just roll straight out of bed into this social, or maybe if you're an early bird, you're already nice and put together for the day. Either way, just come as you are and spend this wonderful time together with us. We are going to be getting set up for the week, and that involves putting some ideas and things for inspiration up on the screen. It also very much involves all of you getting to spend time together with our amazing community and talking to each other in the chat. And in order to do that, you're going to want to make sure that that little blue box there next to where you type is set to everyone. So that way everyone will be able to see what you have to say and what you have to share. Probably the best thing, my favorite thing about a Sonder Social is getting to spend this time together with all of you and all of us kind of getting to go through these journals and in a way go through life together. It's kind of amazing. You know, we've been doing this for, gosh, I think over 3 years now, Maya. I think that's right. Which I guess I should mention the wonderful, fabulous Maya is helping out in the chat today. Yes, over 3 years. She's helping my sluggish allergy brain this morning. But I feel like I've really got to know some of you, and I know a lot of you have got to know each other. And yeah, that's just like the best part about being here. So be sure that you have that chat set to everyone. As we go through, if there's anything on the screen that you want to snap a photo of, but that's a-okay with us. You take whatever you need. You can spend this time just hanging out in the chat, kind of like jotting down different ideas and things, or you can just focus on your journal if you're not feeling in a chatty mood today. Whatever you need from this time is what we want you to take. So real quick, we'll run through our community guidelines. As always, please be kind and courteous to yourself and to others. No promotions or spam, please. We're going to respect everyone's privacy here, and of course, no hate speech or bullying. Try to limit repetitive product and accessory questions. We don't mind fielding some of that or having some chit chat about that, but our time together is so short, so we want to make the most of it. And then certain inquiries myself and Maya will not be able to help with just because we don't have access to the things to be able to help. So if you have something around that realm, we will send you over to hello@silkensonder.com. They are a Monday through Friday team and they are small but mighty, so give them a couple of business days to get back to you. And then finally, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, which is all of you. But you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So if we touch on a topic and it starts to get a little like what I call like the crunchy feelings, like you're like, ooh, I'm not really ready to engage with that today, or ooh, this is bubbling up things I'm not expecting. That's okay. Take a break. If a song elicits something you're not expecting, drop the volume bar down. Whatever you need to do, we want you to feel comfortable. And we'll share a link to the YouTube page where you can find the recording of the social as well. Sometimes stuff comes up and you're like, you know what? I'm not in headspace today. I'm just going to come back and watch the recording. Again, whatever you need to do, that's what we want you to do today. So we are going to do our curiosity mind map. So that is where on a blank page or space in our journal, we will go over a journal prompt related to our theme for the month. And this theme is curiosity, and it is week 3. So we'll be doing that together. And then we will do a rosebud thorn reflection on the last 7 days before we move into planning our weekly setup for the next 7 days ahead. So, as you all know, or I hope you all know by now, our theme for the month is curiosity. I cannot believe it is already July 21st. We've only got like 10 days left in July, and then it's August. I feel like this summer has just completely flown by. And it's very hot here in Tennessee, so I'm not exactly complaining, but also I remember when it was cold and I wanted it to be warm. So I'm a little surprised that summer is going by so fast. Somehow we're already here. But I absolutely love this theme. I think that it's one of those themes that is really a great invitation to us to kind of, again, dig a little deeper with ourselves and just kind of spend some time with ourselves, kind of trying to quiet some of those everyday thoughts and chatter in our mind and get the most out of things. I led a social last week that was about the curiosity sketch in the journal, where you're supposed to like pick a few random objects around the home and like sketch them and then, kind of have questions about them. And that was such a great exercise. And I thought it was such a great example of how we kind of can very easily weave curiosity into our lives if we're intentional about it. Because there are these things in our home that we live with day in, day out, but I don't ever like think about them because they're just there. And so from doing that exercise, it was like, oh, wait, yeah, hold on. How did this even get in my house? And somebody had to make this, and somebody had to design it, and like somebody had to get the materials, and who did that? And where did this idea come from? And one of the things I did was like a salt grinder, and I was like, who first saw salt and was like, I'm going to eat that? Like I wonder about that with certain kinds of foods and snacks and things as well. So just being intentional to stop and ask those questions, when you're outside on your walks, when you're spending time with yourself, and especially when you're engaging with your journal, and especially for things like the weekly setup, because this is where we're being kind of intentional about our goals or what we want to get out of the week. And when we have some success, we need to kind of pause and say, okay, this went really well for me. Like, did I do anything differently? Can I replicate this? How did I support myself in a way that made this work? And when we don't have success, we have to do the opposite and check in and say, okay, did I set my expectations too high? Am I being unreasonable with myself? Do I need to start smaller? Is this even the right season for this goal, right? Because sometimes not having a success is not a failure. And yes, failure is a part of life, and we all experience it, and we kind of have to keep going or learn from it. But I think step backs or like less successful weeks are not necessarily failures. Sometimes they're learning moments, right? Because sometimes we do need to get curious and say, you know what, this thing that I'm asking of myself, now is not the right time, or I don't actually want to do this. I just think it's something I should do, right? So this is a wonderful theme for us to really figure out what we want, what we need, and how we can get there. So without further ado, let's get into that mind map. So you can do this on a blank page or space anywhere in your journal. I usually just pick a page in the back so that it's easy for me to flip to. And we're going to be exploring the different ways we can be curious and how we can keep or strengthen our sense of curiosity. And this week, we're going to ask you to think about thrill-seeking curiosity. So the prompt says, recall a time when you sought out an adventure or tried something new and exciting. What motivated you to take that risk? Describe the emotions you experienced before, during, and after the event. How did this experience satisfy your curiosity, and what did you learn about yourself in the process? Now, it says thrill-seeking curiosity, but the first sentence here says, recall a time when you sought out an adventure, tried something new, or tried something new and exciting. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an actual thrill seeking. You do not have to have, skydived out of a plane, although if you did, that's awesome and you're very brave and I'm very impressed. It could be something like deciding to take on a different career or retire or move somewhere or travel somewhere or honestly do less. Like sometimes new and exciting is actually saying no to things that we don't want to do or that we don't have the space and time for. So definitely think about that as you go through. For me, I decided to remember the time that I rode my first upside down roller coaster, right? Like when I was younger, that was like, those were the big coasters. That was always the question, does it go upside down? And so I was on like a school trip with classmates to Kentucky Kingdom, which is, it used to be a Six Flags park. I think it's still there, but it's not Six Flags anymore. And they had a coaster that went upside down, but it was like one you could like stand on, and then they still had restraints, but you were standing. And somehow that felt safer to me. So I was brave enough with some friends who also had not done an upside down coaster before to get on there. And I was surprisingly calm right up until the moment that they pulled the restraints down and there was like no turning back. And then, of course, I was like, oh no, I've made a mistake. I'm going to not make it. I'm going to become deceased on this ride. I'm not gonna make it. What have I done? Right. The whole time the coaster's going up, I'm like freaking out, I'm screaming, I'm like crying. And then as soon as it boop, went over the top, everything changed. I had a blast. I absolutely loved it. It was so fun. I loved the sensation. And so obviously I learned that I do like roller coasters, that I do like going upside down, and I immediately wanted to do it again. And to this day, I love riding roller coasters and doing all of those things. But I also learned that sometimes it's nice when you're doing something new that might be a little scary to do it with other people who are doing it for the first time. Because it was nice to kind of have that camaraderie of that experience with friends. And then when I was looking for quotes for kind of inspiration here, as I always do, there's a quote here that says, bravery isn't about being fearless, it's about being scared and doing it anyway. And I've always loved that definition of bravery. But as somebody with anxiety, that's a little bit of a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because sometimes I can't do the thing scared anyway, because sometimes my anxiety is too crazy and I just can't. And sometimes the thing is really small. It's like really basic. It's not getting on an upside down roller coaster, right? It's like meeting somebody new or leaving the house and going to a busy, loud restaurant. So I really liked this distinction from Brene Brown, where she says anxiety and dread is the threat is in the future. And for fear, the threat is now and in the present. And so if you think about that with like the roller coaster, right? It wasn't until I was in the moment that that fear kind of kicked in. And yes, I had emotions about it and everything, but I didn't demand that they pulled me off the coaster. I didn't tell them to stop the ride, right? I had to sing like a duet in high school for the first time, very like publicly. And I didn't run off the stage or refuse to do it. And in the moment, the lights went on and I said, well, I'm here. I'm doing it now. And I have that same reaction and like problem solving or moments of crisis. I tend to have a pretty clear head and just get the job done. And so, really, when it comes to bravery and standing up to fear, I actually do really well. It's just the anxiety and forward thinking about stuff that hasn't even happened yet that really kind of like stops me. And it's okay for me to take care of myself in those moments, but also to realize that I can be anxious and brave at the same time. So, with all of that said, I will flip back between this prompt and then those quotes for inspiration, and I'm going to put on some music for you to think about thrill-seeking curiosity in your life. All right. Thank you all for spending some time to think about this curiosity prompt. If you're still writing, that is totally okay. But I do want to make sure we have enough time to get to our other things. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our rosebud thorn exercise. And this is going to be on page 44 in the journals, but you can do a rosebud thorn whenever, wherever. Anytime the mood strikes you or you feel the need to get a little introspective and thoughtful. So thinking about the last 7 days and thinking about a rose, highlight something that went well, something you're grateful for, maybe a positive thing. Sometimes the rose is that the week is over and the week at a new week. Sometimes the rose is that you had time to come here today and spend time with your fellow Sonder fam. And then we're going to think about a bud, an emerging opportunity, something you could look forward to, something that maybe gives you hope or motivation and inspiration right now. If you're like me, sometimes upcoming things or new things also can make you a little nervous in anticipation, and that's okay too. And then a thorn, a challenge, something that maybe didn't go so well, something maybe stressful that you could use some support with at the moment. And if you have a way to turn that into a bud or maybe even eventually a rose, like we see that happen sometimes, where thorns kind of come into blooming into roses, with us making changes and focusing on them. But also sometimes thorns are not things that we can turn into buds or roses. Sometimes thorns are stuff that barrels into our lives that we have absolutely zero control over it. And all we can do is just kind of get through and ask for support where we need it and feel our feelings. And that's okay too. So I always like to do things in reverse. So starting with the thorn, just general stress lately. If you name it, I've probably been stressed about it lately. Just work, life, physical things, bad sleep, all the things. So that's all right. It's okay. I can understand why I'm stressed about the things. And so sometimes that alone is comforting for me, because I do have that anxiety and sometimes I'm stressed about things and I don't know why. So in this case, it is very explainable stress. I understand why it's happening. I will process it and it will be okay. And then my bud is that currently I have another solo trip to Walt Disney World booked for October. I took my first solo trip there last May. I was not expecting to take another trip this year, but they were doing crazy deals, and I was too tempted not to at least snag a room before the deal went away. So I could always cancel it. I'm still not sure. But that trip was so good for me last year. And I think especially with my thorn there, that might be a nice thing for me to look forward to and get rid of some stress. And then my rose is I took a mental health day on Monday. I did not sleep well on Sunday night. I was doing the whole anxiety forward thinking, trying to plan my whole life thing, and I just couldn't get it to stop. And so I woke up Monday and I said, you know what? I've got the time to take off. I am not doing this today. I am not going to go into work tired and try to manage other people tired. I am just going to take the day. And it was really nice. My husband took it off with me and we like walked to a nearby coffee shop and I took a nap. It was really lovely. So I will put on some music for you to think about your rosebud and thorn, and then we'll move into our weekly set. All right. Please continue to share in the chat or wrap up your rose, bud, and thorn. Love doing this exercise. It just is a really quick, easy way to visualize some balance and kind of say goodbye to last week and move into the next one. So, speaking of moving into the next one, we are going to start with our weekly setup now. So we're going to be on pages 46 and 47 this week, and these are my pages, but I'll be sure to talk about what I'm doing in these sections as we go through each of them. And we're going to start on page 46 with how I want to feel. And if you have done a weekly setup with me all this year, you know that my word for the year is embrace. So I've continued to change this to this week, I want to embrace so that I can continue to kind of ground in that intention for the year. So this week, I want to embrace checking in with my body. My therapist and I had a conversation recently where I told her that I just feel tired all the time and I feel like it hits me out of nowhere. And she said, "Is it hitting you out of nowhere or are you ignoring signs that your body is giving you?" And I said, "Dang it, Barbara, why are you right about everything? Stop spying on my life." So I'm going to try to check in with myself a little bit more. But there are some great words for inspiration up there on the screen. And then we have some wonderful words of inspiration here from all of you in Sonder Club. So feel free to think about which of these might help to resonate with your own week, or let us know in the chat what you're coming up with. And also, Honesty Corner. Sometimes I don't fill out the section until I complete all my other sections because I'm not entirely sure what feeling or what thing I want to ground myself in on until I wrap my head around everything else. And that's okay. Just because this is the order we go in does not mean it's the order you have to go in. But take a few moments to think about this, and then we'll move into our next section. All right, like I said, if you're still thinking about what you want to put here, that is okay. It will probably come to you. We are now going to move down into the weekly major three goals and the weekly to-dos. I like to kind of partner these together in my setups because a lot of folks have started kind of merging them together in the journal. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute because I have some good examples. But basically, people are taking their weekly major three goals and then coming up with to-dos that kind of support those goals. I have not made that transition over to that way of thinking yet, although I hope to do it someday because I think it's really smart. So currently I'm doing what I've always done here. I just put my commitments and obligations on the little calendar for the to-dos and write them out. And then I have a running list of to-dos kind of there at the bottom. They're those things that don't have to necessarily get done this week. It's not like laundry or, cleaning cat box or anything like that. But it's those little things or kind of bigger project things that if I don't write them down, I will forget about them. And then 4 months will go by and I'll be like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So I have that sort of running list there just so that I don't forget. And then my weekly major three goals are to edit photos. I have some pictures for my aunt and uncle's vow renewal that I need to edit, but also to try to honor my bedtime because it's important to do both. And then I want to meditate at least one time this week. And then I have been doing the Sonder AI Life Coach beta program. And there are some really cool customized like journal prompts in there. And I have been reading them as they've been coming through, but I'm not always like getting to them because I open it up, I look at it, and I forget about it. So I'm trying to put it in my weekly setup so I can make sure that I do those because they are really neat to me. And yeah, I want to do them. So here are some examples of how people have kind of married these sections together. You can see where they've got like the intentions or the goals and then how they want to support those things. And I will cycle through all of these slides when I put on music. So if I move away from your favorite slide too fast, don't worry, it will come back. And then here we have some more examples for to-do lists. If you have a super duper productive, busy week ahead and you're trying to figure out how am I going to get all of this done? Maybe the answer is that you don't need to get all of it done this week. Maybe you need to apply that Eisenhower matrix to your to-do list and see, is this something that I have to do this week? Is it really urgent? Can I delegate it to somebody else? Can I delegate it to my future self, right? Maybe now is not actually the time to do this task. If you're like me and struggle with executive dysfunction, the Pomodoro technique is a great way of tackling things on your to-do list. You commit to a task, you set a timer for 25 minutes, and then you do the thing for 25 minutes. And then when the timer goes off, you record your progress and you check in with yourself and you say, okay, now that I'm up and moving, can I do another 25 minutes on this task, or am I tapped out? Am I done for the day? And then you accept whichever the case may be. But most of the time, once you're up and moving, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, I can keep doing it. It's just getting started that's hard. And I just use my like Amazon Alexa to set the timers, and that works well for me. You can do a to-do list instead of a to-do list. So instead of writing out everything you need to do, you can write out things as you accomplish them. And that feels really different from seeing everything that you need to do. And then instead, at the end of the week, seeing everything you got done feels very different. And sometimes that is helpful. You can do a need, want, hope list, things you need to do this week, things you like to do this week, things you would hope to do this week, or that you're needing, wanting, hoping for yourself out of this week, right? Like maybe you need peace, maybe you want to be able to have a little solo afternoon, and maybe you're hoping to connect with like a friend or somebody you haven't talked to in a while. You can also do a to-be list for yourself, and really you can put this spin on it in any way that you need to. It doesn't have to be a traditional to-do list, which means you can also turn it into a bingo. You know, we love a good bingo here at Silk and Sonder. The whole world is trying to gamify everything these days, and it's because our brains like it. Our brains like games, they're fun, and our brain likes doing things when it's fun. So if you are a bingo person and that will help you with your to-do list to kind of gamify it in that way, go for it. If you have anything special happening this week, a birthday, maybe you want to really lean into the fact that, you know, summer is starting to wane here, you could consider doing like a theme around that. Of course, you can try dividing into different areas, or if you have a week that is not centered around productivity, you can just put stickers or quotes or whatever you need to here. And then moving into our major weekly 3 goals, it's really popular to do different categories here. I think it just helps us kind of make sense of our life instead of picking 3 random things from our to-dos. It kind of helps us to like focus in on what we actually want. So you've got things like work, home, self, learn, leap into, and let go of. And then I probably will always use this example here that has like the yellow and blue writing in sort of the top right area, where they've written out an intention and then why they've written that out, because research does show that if we write out our whys with our goals, it helps us stick to them. Likewise, you can also make a to-don't list if there are things that you do not want to do this week. Like maybe you want to stop overthinking, or you want to stop negative talk, or stop biting your nails, that sort of thing. And then you can repurpose this as well. So there are some tips and tricks for that. Obviously it's July, and so we had a Christmas in July exclusive social yesterday, but I saw that the Hallmark Channel is also doing their like Christmas in July kind of tradition. So if you are somebody that loves Hallmark movies, maybe you want to pick 3 Hallmark movies to watch this week, or maybe you want to start 3 different podcasts or 3 books, or maybe you just want to write out 3 ways to check in with yourself and get curious this week. So I will hop through all of these slides back and forth as you are working, and I'll put on a good chunk of music for you, and then we'll move into our next section together. We are now going to move down into our habits and activities section, or as Maya likes to call them, habities. I have changed this to a physical check-in for myself. Again, kind of trying to lean into my therapist's very correct advice and observations. So trying to in with myself at least once a day. I'll probably write on there if it's AM or PM when I do, and just trying to track on a scale of 1 to 5, how tired do I feel? How tense are my shoulders? How tired are my eyes? How many caffeinated drinks that I have that day? And how tired are my ears, right? Like I can tell when things feel just a little too loud, even though the TV is at the same volume it always is, or when I have trouble actually actively listening, right? Like somebody's talking to me, and within like 10 seconds, I'm like, okay, are you done with your story yet? And it's not because I'm not interested, it's just because I'm tired. So just trying to check in. And then we've got some examples here of how you can use this section. Now, again, this should not feel like another to-do list. This is a habit and activity tracker. So this can be whatever you need it to be. If you need to add things in there to make it fit to a routine you're trying to establish, great. If you want to fill in just a couple lines or even just one, maybe you just want to track one thing this week. You need to make this work for you. And if you feel like you have a specific goal you want to tie to something, you can do that, or you can just track things as they happen. But if it starts to feel like another to-do list, if it starts to feel overwhelming, then just skip it. Don't do it. Just write some little words of encouragement there, put stickers. It's okay to not do every little space or every little thing in your journal. It needs to work for you. You can also try doing a little like less is more moment. So there's some ideas there of how to make a not do list of things that you maybe don't want to do, like stop delaying bedtime and not getting enough sleep. I don't do that at all. And then there's also a fun little graphic there that talks about daily activities that can help you stay curious if you're wanting to lean into our theme a little bit there. So I'll put on a song for you all, and then let us know in the chat what you're deciding to kind of put here, if you're deciding to put anything at all, and then we'll move into our next section. It is time for us to flip over to page 47 and we are going to start with the meal plan section. Now, this section gets repurposed a lot, not because having a meal plan is a bad idea, but because it takes up a lot of real estate in the journal. For me, I'm continuing to put my work meetings here because it is continuing to help me. It has been really, really, really beneficial for me to be able to see exactly what kind of hard time commitments I have throughout the week, and especially right next to the other page where I have my like personal obligations under my to-dos. But on the weekends, I don't have meetings with work, thankfully. So that is where I've actually written out the journal prompts that I got from the Sonder AI Beta Life Coach. Because I feel like if I actually write them there, then I don't have to pick up my phone. I don't have to look at anything. I don't have to do anything. They're right there for me. There's not really enough space there for me to respond to the prompt, but that's okay. I can respond in a different space. Or even just think about it. Like I have that goal of trying to meditate one day this week. So I might think about kind of ruminating over one of these prompts as I do my meditation and kind of doing an introspective prompt response, if you will. So I'm going to put those there just so that I don't lose sight of them. And then here are some other ideas for how you can use this space. Again, feel free to use it as a meal plan or a meal tracker. It's obviously built out for that. But it can very easily be changed to other things. There's lots of really good ideas there for checking in with ourselves, which of course I love. And then there's somebody that does like a haiku poem there each day. And we had an opening activity in another social where we did a haiku, and I had not done one since I think like middle school. And I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed it. So maybe think about trying something new like that. Lots of folks like to put their affirmations here. And then I love this word of the day. I'm not sure if that was just sort of like one word that described the day or if it was an overall intention. But I really like it either way, regardless of whichever one it was. So I will throw on a quick song for you all to think about how you want to use this section, and then we'll move on to another thing. All right, we have just two more sections, and I'm going to combine them together. So we have the Mind Body Health Plan. I always do a little bingo here now. I've been doing that for several months, maybe even a year. It's the only thing that consistently works for me. And the monthly sticker packs actually have a little bingo kind of already pre-printed for me to like fill in. So it's nice because at least 1 week a month I get to kind of do that and lean into the theme a little bit. So I've got some podcasts on there, a new book I want to start, walking outside, checking in with friends, and researching something because whether it's what kind of pillow I want to buy or it's something like, I don't know, how the moons work with the ocean or just random stuff. I like researching things. Here are some other ideas about how you can use this section. Be sure that you are thinking about ways that you can kind of fill your cup back up and keep in mind that rest is an action. It is something that you have to do. And oftentimes, especially in today's world where we're so go, 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 we have to be really intentional about that action and resting. And then you can also repurpose this space as well if you need to. Lots of good ideas and ways to do that up on the screen. And then the shopping list section, I use this as intended because if I don't write things out, I either impulse buy because I'm afraid that I will forget to buy them, or I actually do forget to buy them and then I end up regretting that or putting myself into a bind. And then the Sonder Coaching AI also gives me breath work to do, and I've been struggling to meditate lately. And that's why it's one of my goals to do it at least once this week. But if I can't do a full meditation, at least I could lean into the breath work. So I have that kind of front of mind there, so I don't lose sight of that. But this space also gets repurposed a lot just because people use other things for their shopping list or like their grocery tracking and that sort of thing. So there's all kinds of ways that you can repurpose it. It's a good spot for a bingo board. I really like the washi scraps here. It's kind of like a abstract art project each week. I think that's super fun. So I will put on a song for you to think about how you want to use these sections for yourself. Definitely put in the chat how you are deciding to use this, and then we'll close out our time together. And if you can believe it, that's our time together. We do have, of course, our last little section that I am loving, and I would love to see what you are loving if you feel like popping it into the chat. If you do this at the end of the week, you do not have to fill it out in your journal just yet. You can wait. Mine's not up on the screen, but what I'm loving right now is rewatching Game of Thrones. It's here on my journal. I just didn't put it up on the screen. It's something my husband's wanted to do for a while, and I've been like, yeah, no, it's so long. There's so many episodes, meh, meh, meh. But we decided to start rewatching it, and I think I'm actually enjoying it more than he is, kind of understanding how everything's actually going to play out at the end. It gives me a totally different perspective on the characters. So that's also been working well with that theme of curiosity. We would love for you to share your weekly planner in the Sonder Club app. That's where we get all these amazing examples and things that you saw today. So if you feel comfortable, please do share. We are still doing the Refer a Friend program. You get $10 off, they get $10 off, and then you could come to socials together, which I think would be so fun. One of these days, I'm going to convince one of my friends to do it. And then if you can upgrade to an annual subscription, it can save you some money. So just think about that. And then definitely let us know what you thought about this social. If you have any suggestions for any future ones, Maya is going to pop that YouTube link in the chat that I mentioned at the beginning of the social, where this one and all the other ones will be recorded. So if you ever can't make it to one, need to go back and re-listen, had to leave halfway through, anything like that, it will be there for you in a few business days. And then lastly, so Meha does have a little bit of an ask. So we are doing that private beta with the Sonder AI Life Coach. Obviously, you all heard me talk about it in my setup this week. They are doing 50% off for the early bird VIP code if you want to help test it out and do the beta. But even if you're not interested, that's okay. If you don't mind sharing and getting the word out on LinkedIn, she would really appreciate it. And I'll cycle through these slides so you can kind of learn about some of the upcoming features and ways that they are improving it. And then lastly, I will also share this playlist for you that we listened to today. You should be able to find any of my playlists on Spotify just by searching for them. Honestly, if you type Silk and Sonder, they'll probably come up. But eventually I get a zillion playlists. So I do sort of cycle them into my master list over time. So if you can't find the one you're looking for, I've probably put it in the master list. So you can also go there. You can see I'm up to like almost 20 hours. So lots of music to listen to while you're journaling. But thank you all so much for being here. Maya and I had a fabulous time with all of you. And until next time, be good to each other, and we'll see you all in Sonder Club.